I'm Bella Linchenko.
And I'm Levi Linchenko.
And you're listening to Sweet Success.
You've just checked in to Sweet Success. Join me, Katie Cline, for exclusive conversations with hotel executives, hospitality leaders, and industry innovators. Together, we'll uncover the strategies and techniques these masters of hospitality relentlessly refine. Whether you're already in the industry or just starting out, tune in every week to unlock the secret to your sweet success. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sweet Success. I'm your host, Katie Cline, and today I'm thrilled to welcome Bella and Levi Linchenko to the show. Bella and Levi are married real estate investors and co-founders of Let's Go Design Co., a short-term rental design and launch company. They describe Bella as the creative one, thanks to her background in graphic design and entrepreneurship, while Levi is the problem solver, stemming from his background in software engineering and home improvement. Bella, Levi, thank you both so much for joining me today.
Yay, we're so happy to be here.
So good to see you guys. And I want to start at the beginning, of course. How did you guys meet?
Okay, this is definitely a Hallmark original movie, but I will give you the cliff notes because we only have so much time and we're going to talk about hospitality. But essentially, Levi and I met while on a road trip, separate road trips to Moab, Utah. I was coming from Los Angeles. He was coming from Salt Lake City. Long story short, we met randomly in a hostel of all places, fell in love, and kind of have been together ever since. We're on our 5th year of being together, 2nd year of being married, and so far, so good.
A lot of crazy incidents that kept us together, among which was a hailstorm. So you'll have to ask us about that offline, but crazy story.
That is like such a cute hospitality love story right there.
Absolutely.
I'm waiting for the Hallmark original movie, like you said, Bella. I think that would be great.
You got it.
And maybe within the film, we would touch on some real estate investing. So I guess tell us how you guys got started in that.
That's actually like the scenario that Bella moved into my life. So the way we got started with real estate investing was me and my sister. We bought a 7-bedroom house, maxed out what we could afford, and filled out all the bedrooms. So it was the ultimate house hack. Me and her lived for free for 2 years. And during that time is when Bella and I met. And so she actually just kind of rolled into that frat house, for a lack of a better term.
And I was genuinely surprised that a 22 and a 24-year-old were able to buy a giant property. I literally thought like buying property was like reserved for like 40 plus years old, you know, like how the millennial mindset is like, you can't afford a house. And they were explaining to me kind of like how to get into real estate investing and bigger pockets and all of these like unique things that I had never heard of being from having lived in Los Angeles, where like owning property is a thing of a pipe dream. So getting to move into that house really showed me how accessible it was. And as the second I realized it was accessible and I knew we were going to be together, I was like, we're saving up to buy a property. So It was about a year after that, we ended up buying a duplex not too far outside of Salt Lake City. And we did a full live-in renovation, house hacking that. And at that time, the other house was currently being rented full-time. They weren't living there anymore. And then we ended up selling that house shortly after we finished the duplex. And the duplex, we made the downstairs a short-term rental, and the upstairs we renovated, and we had some really awesome guests that were chill with us doing that for periods of time. Oh. And then we finished the upstairs as a short-term rental as well. And we rent them out kind of on the hybrid STR, MTR method. In our low season, we get a lot of midterm rentals, and in the high season, we let it open a little bit more. But it was a great intro into the real estate world. And now we own those 2 properties and our primary residence, which we like to call it Airbnb hack, where we travel so much that we actually renovated it so that when we travel, it can be a full-time Airbnb, which has been super successful.
To go back to what you said, Bella, about how impressive it was, Levi, that you and your sister were doing this, particularly at such a young age. What was it that made the two of you know this was possible or figure out a way to make it possible in the first place?
I think I had just kind of heard through the grapevine that like you can buy a house and buy a duplex and kind of recycle every couple of years, and that's like the most surefire way. I grew up pretty unprivileged, for lack of a better word. But so the second I got a W-2 job, that was when I realized I could qualify for a loan. And it was within like 6 months of having a W-2 job that we bought this property. And we only had both $7,000 to our name. So it was a total of $14,000. We went into this 7-bedroom house and then never paid money on rent again after that moment.
Wow, that is amazing. So $14,000 down, you purchased a 7-bedroom house, and then, like you said, ultimate house hack. So all of the people who were renting those rooms were essentially paying your mortgage.
That's
Exactly.
right.
Yep.
And when they sold it about 2.5 years later, it was within that like live-in capital gains. You got like a benefit. You didn't have to pay capital gains. They each made, I'm not kidding you, like over $100,000 on their $7,000 investment.
That's amazing.
Because it was a really wonderful time, 2019 to 2022. Like it's, the
Definitely
market
a
rose.
lucky break with the market timing.
Yeah, but still just goes to show how impactful one investment choice can be.
Yeah. And I think, yes, there is a bit of luck, a bit of market timing, but it was you guys taking the risk in the first place and figuring it out. Because so many people just assume, oh, I can't buy. But you were like, I have a W-2 job. Let me see if I can actually get a loan and make this happen for this, quote, small amount of money that I have.
Yeah, there's a quote that I love that's luck is preparation meets opportunity. And for me, I definitely feel very lucky in that situation. But even though we had no idea what we were doing, we were preparing towards that and just taking actionable steps.
And so smart what you guys were talking about with your current primary residence, that because of how much you travel, and I want to get into why you're traveling so much with Let's Go Design Co., but because of how much you guys travel and because of obviously your familiarity with short-term rentals, you actually rent out your primary residence too. So how is that logistically possible with your stuff, with your photos? Like how do you do that?
It took a lot of iteration. The first time we did it took us about like 2 days to pack down the house and get everything where it was out of the guest's way. Since then, we've added locks to a lot of our drawers and cabinets. It only takes us a couple of hours to transition from live-in mode to not living in mode. And then for personal pictures, we have some artistic ones that you wouldn't even know were us. But yeah.
Ultimately, when we renovated this property, which we did do a full 6-month renovation on it, we thought about the end game, which was going to be this. Well, it will one day be a full-time short-term rental, but while we're living in it, it will be a part-time short-term rental. So we made the design very attractive for a short-term rental, but then we also built in all of these literally built-in things that it can lock. So that way we can keep it so that our private stuff stays private, but ultimately the guest feels like they have full access to the house. Right. So a few drawers and cabinets and a walk-in closet, which we already have because of the cleaner's closet scenario, we're able to keep everything stored away and have a really great guest experience. And for us, we're always staying in Airbnbs. Some people are like, oh my gosh, I would never do that to my primary residence. I don't want someone sleeping in my bed. But it's like, well, if you're already going to be doing staying in a lot of different places, it's really not that different. And it's just our house, which, we're only planning to live here for a few years until we get our next property and do the same thing. So ultimately, we don't mind it. And it pays for our travels. So why wouldn't we do that if you're down for it?
I feel exactly the same way. And I hear that a lot from people like, oh, I wouldn't want someone sleeping in my bed. And my first response is always like, well, do you not stay at hotels? Because a lot of other people sleep there too. And I think, like you said, once you're in this world, you realize there's so many things that you can do, like having mattress protectors and pillow protectors and all of those things that are making sure everything is staying really pristine. And plus, when you get home, you have professional cleaning that has been there.
Exactly.
So completely agree with you on that. But what I'm most impressed on is, from the 7-bedroom house to even the way that you designed this house is it just sounds like you guys are always thinking 4 steps ahead.
We tried to. Levi's favorite game in the world is chess. And so we try to treat our life like what's the end goal in mind, and then just take the necessary steps to start today to make that end goal.
Fantastic.
That's it. It's kind of like a constant evolution of seeing how many, or if you can add a step to how many steps ahead you're thinking. So when we bought the 7-bedroom house, we had absolutely no idea what we were doing, but we were thinking 1 or 2 steps ahead. And now with this place, we realize how temporary the situation is. And have built around that, thinking additional steps ahead. And I feel like the more mature you get in life, the more you realize that like thinking 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future, 20 years into the future is something that is actually really valuable and hard to do in your younger years for sure.
And I mean, personally for me, I hate the term forever home. It gives me hives and it makes the commitment phobe in me like freak out that I'm stuck someplace. But what is it that makes you guys know that you're not going to be in that house for the long term?
I think just like the square footage.
It's a condo. But no, I think like even the next house I'm thinking of buying for us, like I think that's not even the forever home. Like, it's in a lot of ways, it's going to be an evolution. And I mean, I think that with most people, like finalizing and settling is something that you're striving for. And I do think that there's going to be a time when we slow down, but I just think we're not there yet. And we're ready to keep, being in fifth gear until the motor breaks.
Specifically, as designers, we have like a lot of wants for our permanent residency. And so I think ultimately to check all of those boxes, we're going to have to build. And that's something that also really excites us. So I would say like our more permanent residency would be after we build. But the way that I've always looked at it is all of the assets, all of the real estate that we own are part of like our forever portfolio, right? They can be transitioned to other properties, sure, but they're definitely a part of us. We pour our hearts and souls into each property that we touch and treat it as if we're going to own it forever.
Forever portfolio is something I can get on board with. Forever home, less so, but I like that term. And that is a beautiful segue into Let's Go Design Co. What point did you guys launch the business, and tell us a bit about its offerings?
So we launched Let's Go Design Co. as the company that it is in September of 2024. So prior to that, I was working more as an independent freelance designer for short-term rentals for a year or so. And ultimately, during that period, Levi had a W-2 job. And so I kind of was like treating it like as like a little fun side hustle hobby because ultimately, we're real estate investors and it was just a way to kind of get more intertwined into the industry. But then once Levi kind of started seeing how successful, these projects I was working on were and how, there was just a lot of movement and momentum with it, he realized that one, he was kind of ready for a change in his career, whether it was a different job or a different company or something. He was already feeling that way. But then he was like, you know what? What if it's entrepreneurship? And what if instead of doing something completely different, we just build out what you're already like have started? And so when he kind of stepped on board, it was like that integrator, visionary duo that I didn't really know I needed. I'm very much a visionary, but not very good at like implementing. And Levi is very good at those things. And so it really was like rocket fuel. And since he's joined the team, I mean, goodness, we have blasted off truly beyond our capacity. We've had to learn how to hire. We've had to learn how to say no to the incorrect clients and say yes to the ones that we're really excited about. So that's been a huge learning process, but we're loving it so far.
That's amazing. I know when I spoke to you guys before this call, Levi, something that you guys mentioned was that when Bella initially left her graphic design job to really focus on this world, you doubled down on your W-2 job for the minute until obviously joining and making the company what it is today together. To me, that sounds like such a testament to the partnership you guys have built together. But can you talk a little bit about that decision? And was that hard to stay where you were, or how were you feeling?
Yeah, it was definitely very calculated. We came up with this concept of leapfrogging where she would be the one that pursued investment and wealth creation while I would bring in the active income, with the concept in mind that as she gained her roots in whatever she was doing, that I would then be able to leapfrog out of my job.
Cool.
And so that went on for quite a while. We looked a lot into just strictly acquiring more properties, more investments, but ultimately landed on Bella doing this work as an interior designer.
Yeah,
and a mural
building
artist.
a business. I think that we always thought wealth creation was going to be through just buying a lot of properties and like building out a huge portfolio. But at some point it became actually, I think the wealth creation is through building a business. And so ultimately when we kind of had that light bulb moment, it's when we figured, why not? Like, let's go ahead first. Burn the boats, as they say, and go into business, which has been like a huge risk, but a huge return in my opinion, because now we're actually, everything that we're putting our energy into is directly being filtered back into our own ownership instead of someone else's ownership.
So for that last portion of my W-2, I really loved what I was doing working in software and just kind of took a project and put my whole heart and soul into it. And then the second that project was over, it was clear that like I needed to find the next chapter, and Bella had already built the foundation of what this business could be, minus any infrastructure or systems or processes. And so that's when I came in and said, okay, this looks like something I can sink my teeth into, and started working more on the business development side, which is something I've always been interested in. And yeah, like Bella said, understanding this concept of investment outside of just physical assets like real estate, but in a business, in the hospitality industry.
The next time you're traveling or celebrating an important occasion, book a Flytographer photo shoot. They make it easy to capture memories by connecting you with hand-picked professional photographers in over 350 destinations around the world. I should know. Capturing memories with family and friends is super important to me, and I've booked Flytographers from Maine to Paris to London. A Flytographer shoot is an essential part of every trip I plan. They also have an incredible affiliate and travel advisor program. Add a photo shoot to your customer's next itinerary and earn 10% commission. Visit flytographer.com/sweet success for $25 off your first shoot, or to sign up as an affiliate or travel advisor. That's FLYTOGRAPHER.com/sweet, like hotel suite, success. I just think this is so cool, you guys, because to me, this is the definition of true partnership and it goes also back to what you were saying about thinking 10 steps ahead, as well as there was a plan of you do this, I've got us over here, but also when it's time, I'm going to jump over there, and that's going to put us to this entirely new level. So I just think that that's awesome. And now I'm going to look to you guys as married gurus, because, it sounds like things are going well working together. So what advice would you have for other married couples who want to work together?
I'd say definitely get ready for like a whole new set of fights, like a whole new genre of argument. But
thank you for the honesty and not just being like, it's perfect. Every day is wonderful.
No.
No, we have this definitely not. We have this concept of like fighting or arguing in a circle. So like with every argument, there's an underlying resolution, and a lot of times people get caught in the argument and stop looking for the resolution and either walk away, or take a hit in the relationship. And so our main objective whenever we find ourselves in one of these arguments is to get to the end of the circle, right? To connect all of the dots so that we have a resolution. And so I would say, with every argument we have, it's like wind blowing on a tree, right? It strengthens our foundation and our roots in our marriage. And it's definitely tricky, and there's a lot of nuance to it. But as long as both parties are willing to communicate through that process, it feels like it's extremely beneficial for the relationship and the business.
Yeah. And I would say getting aligned on your goals to start is going to be the number one thing, because if you ever have an argument, you can just say like, hey, is this aligned with what we're going for and in this business, in our marriage and whatever? Yeah. And then it's just very clear like what your North Star is. And also I think trying to keep a separation, at least a little bit, between business and relationship is really important. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be a lot of intermingling. But if you can be like, hey, it's business time. Like right now, I'm not trying to argue with you because we had like not a great morning. I just want to get to the bottom of this problem. Like, can we work that through? That's been super helpful. Yeah. And then I would say the last thing would be like learning each other's strengths and then trying to give the opposite opportunity to shine. I think that's going to be like, of course, in a business, especially in a partnership, you have to differentiate all the roles between two people, more or less. And some of those are not so fun and some of them are super fun. And so giving space to like let the other have that opportunity, like it might even not be the most efficient way, but it ultimately helps your partnership feel like it's going super well. So that's what I've learned personally. And I know we have a lot more to learn, but we're working through it every day. The first week was so hard. And then after that, it got so much easier, but we were like at each other's necks the whole week. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. And then the second week we were like, oh, okay.
And what was it? Do you think it's just because you had never worked together in that capacity before?
I think it's because we were completely unaligned on the vision of the business. We did not understand what he was coming in to do and what I was giving up for him. Right. And there was ultimately just a period of reconciliation where you have to realize, okay, the expectations, we both had expectations, which we all know what expectations can lead to. Like, we needed to be way more considerate and communicative at the beginning to understand what each other's expectations were. And then also realize that he was not part of the business prior, and it wasn't even really a business. It was like my brain. And so like getting him in on that and like actually integrating everything that we had and were building it took time. And like, we just have to be patient with that time.
Yeah. I think the expectation, I could be wrong, correct me if I am, but from Bella when I came in was like, she's going to get half of my workload taken off. And for me, the expectation was like, I'm going to help build systems so that we can take off half her workload. And so like the order of operations was like very different in our minds. And so we kind of finding symbiosis with that was something that took us just a little bit of time, but once we did, has definitely kind of supercharged our growth.
Yeah, and from what you just said there, Levi, it does, and even, in the intro, how you guys kind of class each other as this one and that one, it seems like it's pretty clear lines of how you divide and conquer, but is it? And if so, how do you guys think about that?
Ultimately, we've done a lot of reading of business books because we knew that we didn't know everything and we didn't know what we didn't know. One of the books that we've recently read that has been super amazing for our divide and conquer mentality is The E-Myth. And it's about entrepreneurship and how to ultimately like grow a business that can live without you. And in that book, they pretty much tell you to differentiate every single role in the business between the owners of the business, even if it's just one person, because the idea is to build a system around it so that you can ultimately walk away from that role at least. And so there's a few things that neither of us want to do, and I don't know why there's cubes being balloons, but there's a few things that neither of us want to do, like bookkeeping and finance stuff and all of the things that are not serious, like as glamorous or fun, but we've just come to the understanding that we can take turns with the hard stuff and then give each other the parts that we really enjoy. Like, I love the design piece and like learning how to work with other designers and teach them and like be able to create something together. I like that. And Levi gives me that full autonomy. It's not like he's trying to jump in and do that kind of thing. And the same is true with like our technology or our organizational charts or like the way that we're doing the internal operations. I just don't even try to understand it.
Yeah. So I'd say like for that clear line, like she's all on the creative, I'm on the business infrastructure. But then like the advantage of, living in the same house and spending all our time together is that we can help each other out in like any given scenario. So when it comes to just like simple admin tasks, I can pick those up. And when it comes to like what goes into the infrastructure, like she can come and fill those gaps. And so there's definitely like theoretically a clear line, but we're crossing it all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, we're literally talking about business, literally from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed. Like it's not just an 8-hour situation. It's like it's an all day, 16 hours we're on and we're doing it. Not like in a way that's like
taxing.
That's what I was going to ask. Is that exhausting, or is it just you both genuinely love it so much that you want to be talking about it?
It's really exciting. There's like a concept that kind of just recently learned about how when you create a business, it's the one time that you have to like show the world a face, right? You can show individuals your face, right? Your personality, but in order to show the world that from like a business perspective or whatever, that's something that's completely new. You get to create your own rules. You get to create your own systems. Like there's nothing underlying like telling you what you can and can't do besides just general common sense. And so it's really fun to just think through all of those things and imagine how that's going to play out to the world and then take the steps to making it actually come to fruition.
Amazing.
Yeah, bottom line, we like it. We like talking about it a lot.
For sure.
Bella, I know when you and I first met, it was at STR Book Club. Big shout out to those guys. We love them. And I remember two things about you from our first meeting. First was that you were live painting a mural on Zoom, which I think is amazing. For anyone who's watching this on YouTube, you will see a gorgeous mural behind Bella, very on brand for them. So I imagine your graphic design background plays a role here, but how did you get started in mural painting, and do you often paint them live on Zoom?
Yes. Good question. Okay. So murals kind of happened as a happy accident. It was a way for when we were doing our first renovation together, and I was looking at this one bathroom and we got a quote to renovate it and it was just totally out of budget. I was like, there's got to be a cheaper way to make this bathroom still really awesome and not so gross. So I did some research and, I found some like tub resurfacing, replace the vanity, like keep it under 2,000. I was like, okay, this just wasn't enough. And I was like, you know what? This wall needs something. And I didn't know how to do wallpaper, but I had a background in art and graphic design. I was like, what if I just mocked something up? I'll take a picture and mock it up. So I did that on my iPad, like not really thinking it was like a skill. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to paint this mural here. Like, this is going to be great. Levi didn't even know what I was doing. He like walked in and went, whoa, what's going on here? And I was like, I just decided that this wall needs a mural. And it ended up being so easy and so impactful.
Not only did she paint the wall, she literally painted the tiles, like individually painted like the tile to give it a fresh new face. And so this bathroom, which really we didn't put much money into, had this whole newer essence.
And it was so cool. And so then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this everywhere. So like in this one house, I started just painting a few murals here and there. And then the one that like started the crescendo of murals was because Levi, we had one room in this house that we didn't really do much of a renovation to. It was just an office guest room. And Levi was annoyed because the whole house was so beautiful, but that one room was ugly.
Exactly. And that one room was my Zoom background. And I was like, yeah, sure, I can do it. I could do a virtual Zoom background, but it's kind of like a shame to have such a beautiful house and not showcase any of it.
Yep. And so I was like, well, we could do this, maybe blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what if I just painted a giant mural behind it? And he was like, okay. So I bought the paint, did the little mock-up, and recorded the whole process because this was right after I quit my W-2 and I was kind of bored. And I was like, maybe this will be something fun to post about. That reel ended up going really viral. So that was kind of like this turn of events I had no idea was coming. And after that reel went viral and I started kind of getting more involved into the STR industry, I started going to conferences and things like that. I kind of made a name for myself as like the muralist girl for Airbnbs. And at the time, like I said, I didn't really have much else to do. So I was like, sure. I was painting murals all over the country for really, really cheap because I was just like, this sounds like a fun thing to do. And then it ultimately ended up crescendoing into the rest of this business, which was not just murals, but interior design. And ultimately all along, that's the part I knew I liked the most. And I thought that murals would be a great intro into the world of design for STRs. And then it ended up being exactly what I was hoping it would be, which was just a foot in the door and to actually show the real talent, which is for sure in the actual interior design. So that's kind of how that got started. And yes, I have been known to paint them on Zoom calls because they're perfect.
All of my just ask any of my old coworkers.
You were painting as he was on his Zoom calls.
I sure was. And they're like, oh yeah, she's painting today. Let's everybody pin Levi's.
That must have been terrible for your calendar, Levi, because all of a sudden you're getting all these meeting requests and people want to meet with you and you're like, oh, they just want to watch Bella paint.
The struggle was real. Yeah.
For a whole week.
It's so interesting too, Bella, what you're saying, because you really almost undervalued the skill. Like you said, oh, no big deal. I can't do wallpaper. I can just do murals, as if that's like a nothing skill. And, similarly with you traveling around and not even charging what it was probably worth for you to be doing. I find that to be the case with everyone with the thing that we're good at, right? We always think, oh, everyone can do it until we realize it's our own superpower. But you said something else there, which was the second thing I remembered about you when we met, was you love conferences. I think I'm getting this right? Yeah.
And yes, that is totally
I know that you said like you're a conference, like you love going to them. You want to hear all about them. So which type specifically do you like going to? Are there ones specifically that you love? And what is it about it that you like going to conferences?
Yeah, conferences kind of hit me out of nowhere. I randomly, we were in San Diego just traveling on a digital nomad stint, more or less, right after I had quit my W-2 job. And I saw that there was an STR Nation conference there. And I was like, it was like discounted tickets. And like, I just decided to buy a ticket that morning to go to it. I was like, I have no idea if this is going to be worth it. But in that one conference, I ended up meeting some of like my now friends and huge people in the industry of short-term rentals. And ultimately ended up blowing my mind how when you gather like that, there's something really magical that happens with the energy of, people who are really passionate about the same things. So in that first year of post W-2 wealth building for me, I ended up attending 8 conferences, which was crazy, all in the real estate and business and short-term rental world. And everyone was super impactful. Not only did it like teach me so much, it ultimately connected me with people that have now turned into my mentors. I've got a lot of clients from those conferences and also just a lot of ability to now like have a little bit of a name in the industry, which is great. My favorite ones I attended last year were for sure HostCon, which is held by Rob Abasola, who's one of my mentors. It's a great short-term rental conference. I also loved Level Up Your Listing. That was for sure one of my favorites in terms of just the entire experience and the design of the conference, as well as the speakers. It's especially great if you're a woman. I'm going to be attending this year, Levi will be too, and I know you're going to be speaking at it, Katie, so that's super exciting. I can't wait to see that. And then I also really liked some of the real estate adjacent conferences, like business development stuff, but one I particularly liked was Squad Up Summit, which is the Sub 2 conference, which is a creative real estate strategy. And though not everybody there was short-term rental host, the ones that were very passionate about it, just doing it in different ways. And it was just fun to like kind of expand my mindset a little bit. So this year we're going to be attending a lot of the same conferences, as well as potentially some business development conferences, because we think we could potentially even branch out into designing small businesses as well as short-term rentals.
Levi, do you share Bella's passion for conferences?
I used to think that I was an extrovert. I actually used to define myself as extroverted. And then after being with Bella, I realized that I'm, just sitting in her shadow nowadays. I'm kidding, but she is the most social butterfly I've ever seen. I love conferences. I love going with her, but I definitely can't keep up with her energy. So I take a different role at those. But yeah, it's really.
I find all the people at conferences, and then I put them in the same table as Levi. Levi, these are all my new friends.
It's really fun. We've done like a lot of like festivals and stuff earlier in life, and we kind of transitioned to conferences because it's that same kind of like social fulfillment with the added benefit of everyone's there to grow. And I think that's like really cool.
Keeping up with online reviews across platforms is tough, but FeedCheck makes it easier by bringing all reviews from all channels into one place. In addition to tracking your own feedback, you can even monitor competitors to see how you compare. They provide deep insights into customer sentiment, trending topics, common issues, and patterns that might otherwise be overlooked. Plus, real-time alerts mean you can respond quickly before things escalate, and AI-powered suggestions help you craft better responses. So, if you want to stay ahead of your reputation, book a demo with FeedCheck at feedcheck.co/sweetsuccess or through the link in the podcast notes. Festival as the new conference. I love it. Or conference as the new festival, I should say.
Yes.
Levi, I feel very similar to you, by the way. I always thought I was an extrovert until I learned probably, 5-10 years ago, that being an extrovert or an introvert is about how you replenish your energy. And I had this aha moment of I am actually an introvert masquerading as an extrovert as well. So I totally get your feeling.
I think I actually like flipped the switch. Like I used to get energized by people, and now I get energized by Bella, and so like people become overwhelming.
That's very nice, though.
What a kind way of putting that.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about design, obviously, having the two of you here. What would you guys say your top design tips for short-term rentals would be?
Okay, so I think our first tip is that form follows function, and that's always going to be the case with anything in design, anything, not just short-term rentals, like any type of design you can think of. So I think it really comes back to before you even try to make your property aesthetic, you've got to make sure it works for the actual people that are going to be staying there. And so
it's like going through the scenario of like, what is your target audience and what do they need? We were just this last weekend in Vail on a ski trip, and they had like beautiful like snowshoes on the wall, but they had no hooks. And we all had snow coats and all of these things that we just needed somewhere to hook them. And that was the biggest pain point probably the whole weekend. If they would have started with that form or the function before going into the form, then maybe that wall would have had hooks instead. And I think that would have been a better user experience.
Yeah. And I think that this just plays into the entire design of your property in terms of the bedding you buy, the pillows you buy. Like, yes, does that really matter from a visual perspective when you're scrolling on Airbnb? Absolutely not. But does it matter when you get there and the experience is actually hospitality? Like it does more than anything else. And so before I even talk about aesthetics, I just want to make sure everyone feels like, they're actually being seen in the experience that's going to be had in that house. And like some easy, quick things are just making sure your seating actually matches the amount of people you sleep in terms of like your dining room table. If you sleep 12, you should have 12 chairs. Same with the living room. If you sleep 12, you should have enough seating for 12 to sit comfortably and watch a movie. And so that's been a huge part of our advice to other people who are DIY designing, or if they're just coming to us for consulting.
I'd say like one way you could kind of categorize it is just experience design versus interior design. Interior design just being like a subset of that experience design, but taking into account more than just the aesthetics, like Bella was saying.
Yeah. And, the biggest piece of advice I can give for design is if you know it's not your forte, you should hire a designer. But if you do want to do some DIY upgrades, I would say the number one piece of advice I could give a person who is doing it themselves is to follow a color palette. And a color palette is the easiest first step in any mood board design direction you could ever start with. And it's as simple as going on Pinterest and typing in color palettes for ski house, color palettes for beach house. Like that's all you really need to do. Start pinning some ones that you like and then decide on like a true, at least 4 color palette. And then use those colors as your source of truth as you're designing for all the different places in your property. So if you want a pop of color, make sure there's like some color options there. Another really big design piece I could say is adding accent walls. This can be as simple as just choosing one of those color palette colors, painting one wall as the headboard where your bed is, or maybe you can go a little bit more intense and grab some wallpaper and do something that goes with that same mood board that you kind of created. And then if you really want to, you can do a mural, and that's a great and easy way to add an accent wall that's branded and, creates interest in your property. But I would say if you're going to do a mural, make sure the space around it goes with the mural. So it's not just like some random object that just randomly appears in your all white house.
I'd say that that's probably the piece that most people miss when they do their own design is the general cohesiveness. It's pretty easy to design like one space to be a moment, but the second you like zoom out the lens and realize that that's part of a greater design, that often gets kind of just underestimated or done incorrectly. And so the ability to kind of have that full cohesive picture is what will make people not realize they're moving from moment to moment as they are, which gives them a sense of unity as they're staying at the property while still giving them the individual moments.
Speaking of missteps when maybe people are designing themselves, are there certain, quote, trends that you guys see in short-term rentals that really make you cringe?
Yes. There's a lot of things can make me cringe, but I think the biggest thing that is cringeworthy these days is there is a trend towards themed houses, which I think is great, especially when they're done well. Oh my gosh, some of the coolest experience I've ever seen. But there are a lot of people attempting these themed houses that are not doing them correctly, for lack of a better word. Ultimately, it feels disjointed. It feels kind of cheap. It feels weird. And sometimes it even feels scary in these houses that are themed. I would just say that if you're going to do a themed house, be very clear about what that theme is and if it goes with your target avatar. So like, yes, a pink house in Nashville is a great idea because that's bachelorette city. And you're going to have a lot of great opportunity to market to the right avatar there. But a pink house like in the middle of, Iowa, I don't know how well that's going to do. So those are the kind of things I would think about in terms of really understanding your avatar. And then also, if you're going to do a themed house, I would really recommend using a designer or a team because they're going to make sure everything actually works and it goes with who you're actually targeting it to.
The thing with a themed house, and this kind of goes back to my earlier point about cohesiveness, is that you have to attach like this property that you're doing to a greater theme, right? It's not like you're building a theme inside of the property. It's like you're building a property inside of the theme. And so it requires zooming the lens out even further than just doing interior design on a property. And so that's something that's hard for a lot of people to get. Another cringe thing I would say is like oversaturation, when like sheets are orange and I don't know, like stuff like that. Or when it's too stale, it's the opposite way and it feels like a hospital. I'd say like either of those kind of make me uncomfy.
I feel like for the most part, people are like kind of over the minimalist, all white, mid-century modern vibe. But there's still, I'm not going to say that it's a bad design style because there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but it is overdone and it is a little bit in the end of its trend, more or less. So it is for sure going to be beneficial to punch up the color and the contrast in houses now so that you don't get that.
That doesn't mean
hospitable
color
look.
drenching is a bad thing. Like color drenching is still something that can be really classy and look really good. But again, something that's easy to miss the mark on.
Are you guys team colored linens or white linens for beds?
White linens.
We're team white linens. Reasons being, I think that one, it just signifies like true hospitality. Like you have the cleanest sheets, and if there were stains, you would be able to see them. And so that just shows just how much cleaner you keep it. Two, our cleaners really like it because they can bleach. And so that's a huge benefit. And then I think it looks so good. And you can add great complementary pillows and throw blankets if you want extra color. But white is the way to go.
Definitely, with any design, you need to keep in mind negative space. And if you start with a colored sheet, then the bed instantly like starts with 0 negative space, or an undertone of like a weird color negative space. It's just hard to work around. Definitely like accent pillows and colors on the bed, essential. But for the actual like palette of the bed, that should just be like,
it's a white canvas.
It's a white canvas.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If someone you're working with has a really limited budget, what are the things that people can do to improve their design that aren't going to cost a lot of money?
Great question. And my favorite thing to tell people who are on a budget who want to improve the design of their house is to add accent walls. And I already kind of mentioned this before, but it is so simple and it is so impactful. I have a friend who literally consulted with me last year, and she just ended up adding 4 accent walls to various bedrooms, just one wall, paint. That was it. I mean, you're talking maybe $200 for paint and a weekend of your time. Ultimately, it is so much more captivating when you're scrolling on Airbnb to see a room that doesn't have all 4 white walls. Obviously, yes, you could push the envelope even further, do wallpaper on the ceiling and chair trim and all these different things and lots of color. But if you can just do one thing and you can do it well, add an accent wall. Choosing the colors for what that will be is probably the hardest part. And there's a lot of great information online on Pinterest and things like that, where you can just kind of borrow some of those really top trending colors. And that's what I would say to do if you don't have the time or investment to do a visualization. But one thing we do at Let's Go Design Co. is like decision visualization, where we actually mock up what that paint would look like on the wall, different color options, what we think would look best. If that's all you're doing, that's something we help out a lot with, not just paint, but also finishes, flooring, wallpaper, things like that. If you want to see, so that's probably like the one thing I would say. Of course, you can update all of your decor and things like that, but that requires a lot more effort and a lot more money. And so I would say just throw some paint on the wall and see what it could do.
One thing that I kind of would add to that is just remembering like the function piece. Function can be really cheap. Like I think every single bedroom should have a stand-up mirror and wall hooks. Super easy, super cheap, and will change the guest experience. So just kind of little things like that. New
can
sheets.
go a long way. Yep.
On the opposite side of that, if you have a client who comes to you and says, money is no object, where do you think you can put big budgets to get that maximum ROI on design?
Definitely in the amenities. We've moved as a society in whole, I would say, into a game of experiences. We're going for the moment of just all of the moments combined, the moment you're sleeping to the moment that you're playing pickleball in the backyard. And I think that the more moments that you can give to a property, the more attraction it gives. Can you convert the garage into a game room? Can you put a shuffleboard somewhere? All of these things are just going to have like little appeals that add up to a great picture of something that's going to make someone's stay just really unique. I would say you could never go too hard on the amenities. I'd say once you do go to a certain point, you probably push yourself into like a micro resort territory, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think that if you're talking about like where can you make the most money in the short-term rental industry right now, it is going to be in buying a property and then loading it with amenities, which not everybody can do. We've realized that. So it's for sure for those bigger budget opportunities. And it's also very important that you kind of take a moment and step back. Why are people visiting where you are? And what is it that they're trying to get? Because you can cater to almost creating that micro resort feel. Maybe they're going to the desert and they want a spa experience. Can you add a sauna and a steam room or something like that? Or is it more family driven? Can you add a really cool pool and a slide and pickleball court, things like that? Like those are the level in which you should probably start steering towards as you get into the bigger budget realm. In fact, I know people who have like put way more money into the amenities and like left the interior pretty basic because ultimately the amenities are going to drive the bookings, which is true. So yeah, if you got money, put it in what you can add.
And what are you guys working on right now?
Great question. So we have a few big projects. We just finished up a property in Big Bear, California, a huge renovation and backyard amenity-driven place. It was a 2 bedrooms. It's going to sleep 12. It is a really awesome property, and the backyard's huge. So they can't do it right now since it's snowing, but they're going to put a pickleball court in the summer. And we really just maxed out everything that we could in the backyard. So it's got a huge deck, a hot tub, a really awesome fire pit with an outdoor. It's going to have an outdoor
dining area.
No, not dining. I'm sorry.
Hanging chairs.
No, projector, a movie, outdoor movie vibe. It's going to have, so it's got a huge spa. Interior has like a lot of fun murals and creative moments to take pictures around. Then we're also doing a big renovation as well in Deep Creek, Maryland for a client. Same situation, amenity driven, really large house, can sleep a lot. They're doing a huge addition to it as well. And then we just are about to start some new properties with a developer in Joshua Tree, California. And so that's going to be some really amenity-driven properties. So all of those bigger projects are, those higher budget, higher realms. And because we're more of like a boutique firm, we like to specialize in some of those like bigger, more unique projects that need a little bit more hands-on for the renovations and things like that. We also have a few small things coming up as well. We've got some murals in various places, some virtual interior design as well. But those bigger projects are what we really like to do because a lot of what we do is actually just in the storytelling, the before and after. And like the more you get to do to tell that story, the better for not just our business, but also the end user's experience.
It's amazing. Looking ahead, do you guys have any predictions for the future of short-term rental design or maybe hospitality design in general?
I mean, I think it's just going to keep doubling down into that experience game. The more, ultimately, like everything in life is a competition for our attention. And the more attention that we can give to a property, the more time that we can keep our guests staying at the property is going to enhance their experience of the property. And so that is, pulling back to the amenities game. Like, can you keep someone there all day, or do they, it's no longer a place to just put your head on the pillow. I think that game is gone, and those who are playing that game are about to lose.
Well, I think that he's right, but I do still think that there's a world where, so that's true for high-end STR design. I absolutely agree that if you're buying properties now, if you're building properties now, you've got to push it to the limit. But there is still a world of people who just want to stay as a group and don't want to stay in a hotel. So they're not necessarily going for the most expensive property. In fact, they might be trying to find the most inexpensive property for their budget and their group size. And so for those, I still think those have just as much of a place in the space, but they're going to have to win in other ways. It's not going to necessarily be design. It's going to be in the hospitality. So I think that the next trend I see coming in terms of outside of just amenities driven is going to be the level in which you can create a more hotel-like experience. So it just means better linens, better check-in experience, better all of that kind of just more of the function like we were talking about before. Because I think it's going to be just about what's a more enjoyable experience, not just a better designed experience. So that's what I could see those two trends kind of going forward.
Okay. Well, I want to ask you guys the last 3 questions that I ask everyone, and you might have the same answers for them or you might have different answers for them. So take it however you see fit. But first question for you is, what was the best hospitality experience you've ever had?
So I would say there's 3 experiences that stand out in my mind. The first is a more traditional hospitality experience. We stayed at the Nobu Hotel in Cabo during our honeymoon. And that was for sure just like, the creme de la creme of like feeling taken care of and like having the sheets turned down and the whole like, we've made the reservation for you, come right this way. That was just really unique and a true hospitable experience. the next one that comes to mind, I'll let you talk about it, is in Crete.
So we spent a month or so in Europe, and we were staying in Crete in Greece. And the Airbnb we were staying on was right just on the ocean side, and the owner of it owned like a restaurant next door. And so we were greeted by him with like fresh fruit and beers and drinks, and he constantly came and checked on us, gave us all of our privacy, of course, but he was kind of just there as a host, right? And we really felt like we had been brought into his fold, so to say, and it was just a really fun experience. I don't think I've ever had that hands-on of hospitality experience.
Yeah. And then the last one, which came to my mind at the last second, but it's so true. I'm an only child, and when I visit my mom's house, when we visit, it is a hospitable experience like no other. I'm not kidding you. Like she leaves Fiji water in the bedroom with a glass of wine, or like a bottle of wine, and like fresh chocolates. And she greets us in the morning. So I mean, like, I want to take tips from my mom when it comes to that kind of stuff, because that is so amazing to come home to when you don't expect it.
A lot of people have referenced their mom when we've gotten to this section, and I would say the same about mine as well. And what an amazing skill to get to learn from the matriarchs of all of our families as to how to make people feel looked after, right?
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
Okay, so on the exact opposite of mom, what was the worst hospitality experience you guys have ever had?
I did a lot of backpacking in my early 20s, and I stayed at a hostel in Vietnam. I stayed at many hostels in Vietnam, but there was one hostel in particular that was scarring. And ultimately, I just remember I was just there to sleep, because any more minutes in that hostel was terrible. It did not smell good. It for sure probably had bed bugs, and the people there were really sketchy. But you know what? I had a great time in town, so I'll just try to forget the hostel.
Levi, how about for you?
I'm having a really hard time like pulling one up out of my memory. I feel like even I've done like a lot of extensive traveling. I've traveled to third world countries, and like even when I'm kind of at the bottom of like the design world maybe, or the development, like the hospitality when it comes to like the people that are there and that are taking care of you and that are hosting you is really fun to see how that's not directly correlated with the means of a place, right? And I think that's one thing that I epiphanated, is that there's no correlation there, right? Like hospitality isn't related to means, it's just related to caring. And I think that's really cool.
And final question for the two of you. What does hospitality mean to you? And Levi, you might have just touched on it there. And is there anyone, it could be a person, brand, Bella, going back to your mom here, that you think has truly mastered it?
I think that what hospitality means to me personally is consistency in the experience. I think that's a big deal when it comes for like when I think about my most hospitable experiences. Kindness and making you feel like a special guest, I think, is another big piece of it for me. And some brands that came to mind when I was writing those out were, this is so random, but Chick-fil-A. I go to Chick-fil-A and like I know exactly what I'm going to get. I'm personalized. I feel like a special guest when you walk in. They're like, they welcome you, and there's something about it. Also random, but Build-A-Bear Workshop. As a child, that place was like, made me feel like I was the queen and I was the most special guest, and I was taken care of and held my hand the whole time. And so those are two brands that kind of come to my mind when I think of mastering hospitality.
Yeah, I definitely think consistency and just that attention to detail. The things that you don't think people are going to notice are the things that people notice. We just stayed in Vail on a ski trip, as we mentioned, and their entire experience was just extremely catered. And I feel like that was another great example of someone who's mastered hospitality.
Well, you guys, thank you so much for your time today. You've made me think and get excited about redesigning some of my existing properties, or, the future ones ahead. So thank you for taking the time for this today.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. It's time for today's sweet summary, where I break down the key insights and actionable takeaways from today's conversation. How great was it getting to know Bella and Levi? While their meet cute is definitely something straight out of a Hallmark film, I loved their honesty regarding working together as a married couple. Not every day is perfect, but they focus on finding a resolution to every disagreement. Not to mention, they really personify true partnership. aligning on their goals or their shared North Star, as they said, and dividing and conquering when necessary. They don't just work together, they strategize together. When Levi doubled down on his W-2 job to build active income for them so that Bella had the freedom to focus on wealth creation is a prime example of that next level teamwork. And speaking of strategy, these two are always thinking multiple steps ahead. From Levi's first house hack to Bella launching the business before Levi could leapfrog into it, they've built their success with intention. You can see it in the way they've renovated their home and now in how they're designing their business. Honestly, Levi's love of chess combined with Bella's design prowess just might be their secret weapon. But beyond the numbers and the strategy, their approach is rooted in something even bigger, creating moments. Levi spoke about packing as many experiences as possible into a short-term rental stay. And that mindset carries through everything they do, whether it's curating a guest stay, designing a home, or even attending a conference. They see every opportunity as a chance to be inspired, connect, and improve. And that brings me to my final takeaway. Conferences are the new music festivals. The best ones leave you buzzing with energy, fueled by new ideas, and ready to bring that momentum back to your own business. Or maybe, if you're like me and Levi, possibly slightly exhausted. But that's when we look to the Bella in our lives to help us turn inspiration into action, preferably after a good night's sleep and a strong cup of coffee. And that concludes another episode of Sweet Success. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. We all know how important those 5-star reviews are. I also want to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in. It means the absolute world to me. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have ideas for future guests, new topics to cover, or even just want to say hi, don't be shy. Message me through our website, sweetsuccesspodcast.com, or on social media at Sweet Success Podcast. That's sweet like hotel suite. Once again, I'm your host, Katie Cline, and I'm super excited to see you all next week.